let's start. Let's start with yes, we're here with Trappy, the Team Black Sheep dude, and we're just hanging out and getting to know each other better and talking about FPV stuff. So thank you so much for hanging out and giving me the time. And now you're gone. Okay, you're back. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll be a bit unstable. It's okay. It's 6 a.m. here too, so I was just getting a bit of fuel inside me. So how about first of all, Team Black Sheep? Why that name? Is it like, sheeps and goats kind of thing, Bible stuff, or what is that? Yeah, we come from the yeah, yeah. And honestly, like that's one of the biggest things that I was kind of drawn about you. Like I just from those old videos where it's like I came in like 3 years ago. So I wasn't there at really the beginning of FPV, and I'm kind of glad because I'm like it's already kind of a pain in the butt messing around with stuff. Back then, it must have been just you must have gone insane sometimes. You have any crazy stories like that? Yeah. Okay. So like for instance, now we go crazy sometimes. Sometimes it feels like you spend more time trying to program stuff than you do flying. What about like back then with all the crazy stuff? Do you have any like just like one story or something where it was a bloody nightmare and then it worked? Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's try that. Hey. Oh.
All right. Well, clearly it's not working. I gotta get back to the headphones here. Um, my thing is only supported on mobile phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
All
the
right.
thing
We'll
with
see how it goes.
and after I'll edit everything and I can just cut out all the crap.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Yeah. Perfect. Um, okay. So was it fixed wings and then
Yeah. When we started, drones
quadcopters?
didn't.
Yeah.
When we started, quadcopters didn't exist yet. So it was kind of. I mean, flying wings clearly existed, but they weren't really popular for FPV. So the most popular model was the multiplex Easy Star, aka Bixler, and that's pretty much what everybody used. And then things started progressing into flying wings, and then right wing came to the scene, and that's kind of how everything started up.
Okay. And then when you did that big flight over the city, were you the first one to do that? Were there other people doing that?
I was the first one to fly it low. So a lot of people have been flying in New York City or in other cities before, but most of them were kind of like, they stayed like 300-400 feet up and just flew over it, which didn't get a new perspective because people were used to that already from helicopter flights. So the the proximity to everything was kind of what made it viral or made it shareable content because it was something new.
Yeah, because basically when I think of those things, I think of like those, you know, that like technique. There's like Lego, those like metal things where you built
Yeah,
robots. Like that's what those drones looked like. They looked like huge, like kind of
yeah,
monsters.
yeah.
And I'm just because I fly 3.5s. They're tiny. I dive the buildings and I fly around people. And sometimes people will be like, "That's ruining the hobby," and I'm just like, "That's kind of the point." like,
Yeah.
like if you don't get that feeling of kind of like, "Oh my goodness, this is kind of like exciting," then what's the point? Do you kind of feel like that a bit?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the early stages of skating when there weren't any skate parks. People used the city as their skate park, and the rebel nature of the whole thing and kind of the underground feel to it was what drew most of the people in, and then eventually it became more popularized, and then as it becomes more popularized, the industry around it becomes larger, and then things progress naturally. For FPV, in my opinion, that still hasn't happened yet. So I mean,
And it could kind
I
of
don't
go either
see.
way.
Oh, absolutely, and I mean, there are regulations now, and it's basically the industrial uses of drones are kind of taking over, and those guys obviously don't care too much about hobbyists, and that could still go either way, where basically where hobbyists will have to comply with regulations that industrial companies have to adhere to, and that would be pretty tough to do because
Yeah. See, like I've kind of had this attitude where we're in this crazy place where we can kind of almost do whatever, like enjoy it while we can.
yeah, why not? I mean, when we flew, like for example in New York City, there were no laws whatsoever that stopped us from flying anywhere basically. Even like in class A airspace, it would have still been technically fine, like according to the law, right? um, then new regulations came out, which I don't know what it's called. It's like Part 47 or whatever the
Mhm.
Americans have to do. Um, like the certification. And yeah, I mean, that's, I still think it's a step in the right direction, as long as it's not too cumbersome and as long as there are no big hoops to jump through. Yeah,
Yeah, see, like I
I
say
just
this, there's no
sorry, yeah,
law saying you can't fly a drone through the mall, right?
there isn't, there absolutely isn't.
It's stupid because it's like you shouldn't. I get it, but I'm like, there's that loophole, and I kind of love that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they can't just create laws banning everything, right? So it gives you some leeway in terms of doing it intelligently and without bothering anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I breed snakes, so lots of the parks that say you can't have a dog, it doesn't say you can't have a snake. So same thing.
Yeah.
Or like at the bank, they let you take your dog. So like I'll go in with an 8-foot snake sometimes and do my banking, and then it'll be a bit of a kick. Um, so what was the biggest change in FPV that was like the biggest good thing for you? Like, yeah, this is amazing.
Well, the advent of the long range radio links, I think, because video has always been fairly long range. Like we never had video issues going out far. I mean, yes, now with digital, obviously it's higher resolution, but
Yeah.
in terms of absolute range, analog is still king. So, and for me, like the thrill of flying somewhere close, very far out, is kind of where it's at. So, video has never been an issue, but if you don't have a reliable control link, you will not be very comfortable flying, and you won't be flying low or low enough.
So, for instance, how did you get into developing? Like, how did you go from we need something better to Crossfire?
That's pretty much it. Like it was a straight line. So it's we always had that mentality of, okay, what is out there, and why is it not working, and then make something that works.
Hmm. So, and what's the process? Did you have like people? Did you have just manufacturers? Like, how do you go from an idea to like, I want something that flies better than Fry Sky to,
Well, I mean, you analyze how the competitors do it currently, right? And when Crossfire came out, there were some long range radio links already out. And you basically you identify the drawbacks, you make a list of it, and then you find solutions, like predominantly chipsets that will allow you to do something better. So in our case, it was this Semtech chipset, which is pretty much used by every long range radio system these days. I mean, even some short range ones. Um, and that chipset had just come out, and so we bought some prototypes, like like development boards, kind of like these ESP32 boards that you can buy nowadays. And then we just wrote some code for it and went out to test it. So we only had like 10 milliwatts of power, and we just tried sending commands that were about as long as a radio frame, and we just saw how far we went.
hmm. And then did something like click or whatever? Was there like a breakthrough or?
No, it was pretty much like we started with kind of duplicating the functionality that was out there already. So like a kind of like an MVP, or a most viable product, and then we started releasing it. But we only used about 20% of the storage space for the code. So we knew that it was going to be like a very lengthy development of coming out with new features. And most of these features actually came about from just talking to customers, like, what would you like to see? And then they were saying like, oh, I'm starting to feel latency compared to like FR Sky, or what was out there at that time, like Futaba and those kind of radio links that were, they were high performance radio links, just not very far. So we were looking into ways of how do we decrease the latency, upping the frame rate and those kind of things, and that quickly brought limits towards the protocol side of things. So we implemented the CRSF protocol, which then allowed us to get lower latency, more data throughput, telemetry up and down, and basically just listen to the customer and develop those features.
And did you have like the knowledge to do this stuff, or did you get the knowledge to do this stuff? Like, did you go to school and like, what's that story like?
So I didn't develop Crossfire. I still don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I just know a lot about it because I've been basically in the room when it was developed since day one. So I'm the only one that has been there since the beginning, right? My two co-founders that started the project, they have since left like two or 3 years ago. And most of our developers obviously have either joined later on in time and are still here, or they have since left. So yeah, that's kind of why I know still know a lot about it. But I'm not a software engineer on the embedded level, and I'm not really a hardware engineer either. I just know a little bit about everything, and that's so I'm my official title is basically project manager at Crossfire.
Yeah.
So I tell them what to implement, and I might have some guidance on how to implement it, but not really.
And when you do FPV, so has it always been long range? Has it been freestyle? Has it been cinematic? Like, what has been the thing that excites you the most?
No, it's always been long range. I mean, we don't fly close by at all. It's just we like to fly close to things. So when the pilot is close by, you always get people like asking questions or just coming up and talking to you, and that's kind of interrupting the whole thing. But when it's long range, when you're like 5-6 miles out, flying the drone, yes, people are going to see the drone, they're going to hear it, but they're not going to find you as the pilot. So yeah, that's kind of the it's a positive byproduct like long range. You don't have to worry about spectators, right?
Okay, and then for instance, I saw like you hanging out. Like, did you do the racing for a bit?
I was part of it,
Yeah.
just from a purely commercial point of view. We have video transmitters that were very popular with racers, or still have video transmitters that are very popular with racers, and so I just had to be there to talk to them, like what's going on, how can we improve, what are your pain points, and then convey those issues back to the developers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like for instance, when you get together, like you hung out with Mr. Steele and you get with those guys and whatever, you is it like, yeah, let's go deer and fly, and that's fun, or are you just like being on your own?
Um, it used to be more stressful because we had something to prove, right? Like as a company or as a product manufacturer. So it was more intense in terms of like figuring out what our angle could be, if that makes sense. Like, how can we make a better product than the competitors? How can we develop something new? And flying was basically done with that intent. But over the last like 4 to 5 years, I've ticked off a lot of boxes that I wanted to tick off, and that means that everything became a little bit more relaxed. So we're back to flying for the purpose of flying, even though we might be testing some products, but it always has to be or have that enjoyable element to it. Because otherwise we also have test pilots, so we send them stuff and then we let them test it.
So who are your favorite pilots? Like, who do you like to watch?
I like Au Plume. I think that's how you say it, right? He's seems like a French name.
It's Ox Plume.
Uh,
I'm
whatever.
full of nonsense.
Yeah. So I like watching him just because he does new stuff, right? Like he's kind of like the Matty Stunts,
Well,
or
his
Mr. Steel
videography
Boys.
too.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
His edits are.
Otherwise, Otherwise, it wouldn't
Yeah.
be popular, right? But that's kind of a given. So yeah, I mean, you have to do good edits. I also like Sebastian Schlieren on Instagram. So he's kind of like um, a travel content creator that flies around with drones a lot. Of course, Mr. Steele, just because it's entertaining. And yeah, those are my top three, I would say.
What's your favorite product that you don't make or work with?
Hmm, probably the goggles too. Yeah, I mean, I still fly a lot of analog, but the goggles too kind of changed FPV for me in the sense that I can just grab them together with the Tango 2 and go out and fly. So there's no backpack anymore. There's none of that, like the logistics have just been reduced by a lot.
Well, what's your analog setup look like? What's your favorite setup?
My current analog setup is the HD0 with a Fusion. But we
And
also we actually use the Fat Shark Recon, I think, quite a bit. Like
okay.
the shitty box goggles, just because
Yeah.
we have them laying around.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My buddy has the HD0 ones. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're okay. At home, I use the Clearview with HDL2. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean the Clearview is next level. So like if you can use an external video receiver, that's it's basically digital video at that point.
Okay, and then you I think you've probably been asked before, but like with Express LRS, what is there to stop you from just plug and play, like bringing it over and producing that? Like what is the
Nothing.
thing? Because do you feel like if you did that, don't you think that'd be good for sales and that doesn't bother you or
I don't really care about sales too much, to be honest.
yeah.
I look at where I can provide value. So that's always been my underlying business philosophy is I mean it's just I still remember when in business school they basically said profit equals cost minus um, sorry, profit equals price minus uh, cost, and that equals value, right? So you have to maximize the value to maximize the profit of a business. And just manufacturing ELRS receivers, I don't see that as being extremely valuable.
Sorry, somebody said something. How did you put pictures of your wife on your t-shirt? Oh man. So what about with sub 250? Do you think the future of FPV is sub 250?
No, I don't think that FPV pilots care about regulations enough for that to be a determining factor.
So you think they'll always just people saying, "Screw it, I'm going with my big one."
Yeah, and I mean that's not to say that um, lightweight FPV drones don't have an advantage, right? So like our flying wing is about 2 kilos, and I obviously have a hesitation to fly them in certain locations. But we also have, for example, the pod racer that I fly a lot weighs about 350 grams, something like that.
Mm,
So we bring that out just not because it's sub 250 or whatever, but just because, okay, this is a lightweight drone that's not going to bother people, right?
yeah.
When we fly here. So I'm not saying that it's bad to look out for being lightweight, but that's obsession with hitting 250 grams or whatever it may be in the future seems silly.
Yeah. See, I personally started at a time where like all I fly is sub 250. Like I just flew a 5-inch yesterday, and of course, the
Okay.
first time I take it to the park, someone comes and kicks me out of the park.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but like for 3 years, I've been flying sub 250, and that never really happened.
Okay. Well, I mean, but again, I don't think it was because it was lightweight or anything. It's just some people
Well,
are
the
assholes,
sound,
right?
like a 5-inch sounds a lot bigger than a. Let me show you something. This is my setup, and I think it's kind of cool that we can have. Like, I think that's 220 grams with a GoPro 10, all up weight,
Okay. Okay.
and I can do everything with that.
And what's your video system on it?
The video system is a 1.6 watt that I always take them out of the thing. And actually, that I want to talk to you about that too, because you have the 3 watt, and you said you don't need heat sinks.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a F7 stack and a 1.6 watt
Okay.
VTX double-sided taped to the top bottom plate. And then by putting it in pusher, I don't get the props in view.
Off the GoPro. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then see with the prints, I can just print TPU at any angle, and that connects the GoPro. And it also gives, so if it hits, and then there's a toilet tanked 650 to 850 battery on there.
Okay. I mean, I guess that probably flies about as well as a 5-inch, right?
Oh, I feel like it flies better.
Okay.
Because with the 5-inch, see, I have this thing because people have flown for so many years the 5-inch. That's what's so popular and everyone's used to, and they have all these beautiful accessories, and they're kind of like decked out. And with all the sub 250 things, it's mostly, and just in general in FPV, it's manufacturers making frames. Whereas you look at, for instance, Mr. Steele, where he made his own like favorite setup, the way he flies. And I think getting something like that is going to fly a lot better than just getting these things that are put together by manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
So from the beginning, I've had this obsession with kind of like making the perfect sub 250. So like this 4-inch actually weighs less than the 3.5. And
Okay.
you sell the do you still sell the, which one is it? The patch ray.
I'm not sure actually, but
So
I
you were
remember the
selling,
drone.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that
He's
guy,
he's a good friend of mine from Dubai, I think, is where we got
yes,
him from.
Pavel.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Pavel, I met him kind of in the beginning because I was searching through all the sub 250 drones, and I just found that most of them fly like crap, and they had problems. And then I saw someone flying Pavel's drone. I saw them switch from the Tadpole to the Armiton Tadpole. They switched to Pavel's patch ray. Have you flown his? Have you flown the patch ray?
No.
So it's really, really nice and balanced. And I flew it for a year, and he developed like different canopies. So you could take a different canopy and you could put vistas in them. So then 1 year I was flying vistas the whole year, and I broke like 7 of them. And then from that I went back to analog because it's cheaper and it just stopped breaking.
Yeah.
And with Pavel's drone, it didn't give the option to put the battery on top or underneath. So that was the start of basically the Discus, which you can just do toilet tank, battery underneath, on top, 12 millimeter motors, 9 millimeter motors, like just all the different combinations. Because at one point I had 3 sub 250 drones where I smacked the front right motor on three brand new builds. The front right motor just kept breaking. And I'm like, I have three broken quads. Can I build one that works? But the frames were incompatible with the electronics.
Okay.
So then I made this drone to just kind of take 12 and 9 and 25 and 30 and 20. Like, so it just takes all the electronics and then little accessories, right? Like the motor protectors, frame protectors, and fixed angle mounts for every camera and antennas, and just being able to kind of have something where it's like whatever I have, I can stick in there.
Yeah, an all-purpose.
Exactly, like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah, that makes
thing.
sense.
Yeah. So that's been my work for the past, I guess, 2 years, like just learning AutoCAD and learning how to do all this crap.
Do you
And
cut them yourself, or do you just order?
I get them cut. I thought about
Okay.
doing that, but it's just my wife. If you've ever been around a channel, like you see my wife, she's all like, it's part of the it's part of the whole thing. My wife's always telling me off, getting me mad at something, telling me that like I need to stop hanging out with you losers.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, like you and your nerds, and like when I want to go to a drone race or something.
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
No,
No,
not yet.
just wife.
Just wife. Yeah.
Just
I
wife.
only got married like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I remember because I was like, "Hey, let's hang out," and you're like, "I'm on my honeymoon."
Yeah.
Oh man, do you have any questions for me, Trappy?
No, none whatsoever. No.
Oh man. Okay. Let me think. Yeah, I'm a crossing guard, so I have to be out there at like 7:30.
Oh, okay. Crossing guard means like.
I hold up the stop sign and keep children safe on their way to school.
Oh, okay. So like helping kids cross the road. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
like your full-time gig, or is that like a part-time thing that you do in the mornings?
So basically, I've been a hairdresser since I'm 19. So that's basically was my big thing, and I had a big salon and whatever, and then also a snake breeding business. So like I
Mm-hmm.
breed reptiles, like fancy exotic snakes, and I have like
Okay.
those really rare ones, like Indonesian green tree pythons and stuff. So
Okay.
I had this kind of like, I guess, like business entrepreneur background, and then COVID came and shut the salon down, basically, that I was working, like that I built for like 20 years.
Okay.
So it's just
But it
the
was
whole,
your salon,
yeah,
okay.
it was, I had, yeah, I had been building a business for 20 years that was really great. And then COVID just kind of demolished it. And then I'm stuck at home with all these animals. And one day I'm just like, I wonder if I can feed a snake with a drone. Because I had a $30 like stupid toy drone. So I took a piece
Yeah.
of dental floss and I tied a baby mouse, like they're dead. and I flew it in the air and I fed the snake. And I'm the first person in the world to feed a snake with a drone. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, PETA must be excited.
Yeah. So yeah, the reptile community was not happy with that. I don't. It's like a 40-gram drone, right? Like you could take I took the propellers and I stopped them with my tongue to like show how like not dangerous it is, right? But then I had this idea: what happens if I get a giant drone and take my giant snake out to the park? Like, so I had this like idea, like that'd be awesome. So I started looking into finding a better drone, And then I found UVA features with those videos, the build $100 drone
Mhm.
and those kind of videos. And then I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like you can actually fly.
So down the rabbit hole you went.
And it's just like, yeah, man. So, and it was September. So winter was about to start coming. And I just watched like everything on the internet about FPV. And I got obsessed and I bought my I bought my 3 bind-in flies. I got like the petrol from HGLRC. I got the Armaton space grade tadpole, and what was the other one? I don't know. So I had like the 3 popular little things, and then that summer when I started flying, like my first time flying, like when you're one channel over on the in the goggles,
Yeah.
like you can still see but you can't see. So my first time flying, and I have it like on the channel, like one of the first uploads. I'm out there with the goggles on and I'm flying. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. It's just like I can't see bloody anything.
Well, you have no frame of reference, right?
No, it was just me. Like I took myself through the journey and watching endless Joshua Bardwell videos, and I just was obsessed with it, and like almost every day since then. And it's turned into something crazy, and because of COVID, the government gave me like $10,000, and I didn't think COVID was going to last that long. Right?
Yeah.
So I just spent all that money on like FPV stuff. And I just bought everything and I tested everything, and like that's I guess my obsession, just like trying all that stuff and then developing it and trying to make just something beautiful that you like to look at and that you enjoy flying. Like
Mm.
I don't know. I like the aesthetic. Like my dad was into race cars. Like he used to buy all the road and tracks and know everything about like sports cars. So I think that kind of had an influence where it's like I don't just want it to fly nice. I want it to kind of look a certain way. I don't know. Have you ever
Okay.
felt like
No, I don't care about the looks at all because you're in FPV, right?
yeah,
So we even have a rule at TBS. It's like no stickers before the third flight.
okay.
So just like it has to fly first, it has to prove that it flies, and then you can like decorate stuff, like
Mhm.
paint or whatever. Um, yeah, because usually the planes that, at least for me, that I spent the
Yeah.
most effort on making it look nice are the ones that I lost, like on maybe.
So it's a bitter
So
thing.
yeah, yeah. Oh, very bitter. Yeah.
So you never look at something and be like, do you ever look at something and be like, wow, that's beautiful, or like, oh, that's ugly? I just like, what were they thinking?
Of course, but that's more like for things that are not that utilitarian. Oh, your wife is coming.
I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm speaking to an FPV legend, and it's the only time that he could be awake. So
Did you even sleep?
yeah.
It's so freaking loud.
Well, like people.
Shut up.
Oh. We're almost done, Mama. We got 10 more minutes. There you go. That's my wife. Oh, she's feisty. She's feisty. I like wild creatures. What can I say? Oh man. Okay, yes. So yeah, have you ever looked at something and been like, "Wow, that's beautiful," or like, "Oh, that's ugly."
No, I mean we try to like design the products that we make that there is a certain aesthetic that comes with it, right? At least I would hope so. That the design message comes across. But
Mhm.
um, for like when it comes to drones, I think it's purely utilitarian, just because there isn't really that much space to make it look nice. like in terms of weight, like you would add dead weight to make it look better, and that's kind of, I think, is not good. And yeah, and then or you make it perform worse, right? So that would be even worse. But there is a point to be made, especially about like planes. If they look good, they usually fly well as well. So there's just like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, like
From,
aerodynamics. Like, see, I find that lots of people in the FPV don't talk about. Like, I find that lots of drones look like flying coffins. Like, there's this school
yeah,
bus in the middle where, like, the opposite. Instead of adding weight, you can take away. You can make shorter
yeah,
standoffs. You can have a better center of gravity. You can have less. Because there's a ratio, or there's like this point where it's like it becomes stronger, and then it becomes too heavy, and now it has more momentum, and then that's going to make it smash harder. So there's that kind of
mhm,
like there's a weight to strength ratio,
yeah,
and there's the center of gravity, right, where you put all your electronics on the back instead of right in the middle, and you have your camera all the way out. Like there's lots of things that can be done that make it actually fly better and actually save weight at the same time.
yeah. I agree. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not always one direction, right? But
yeah.
usually, the aesthetics of a drone is like the last aspect of it.
Okay.
And if we only really do changes to it if it's free of charge or an improvement on the design, basically. Like
Uh,
by free of charge, I mean like without consequences, right? Like not necessarily related to money.
well, how do you feel about cars? What do you drive? Are you driving a Toyota Corolla?
Well, I don't drive cars here in Hong Kong.
Uh,
I recently bought an RS3 Audi
oh,
in
yeah.
uh, in in back in Europe. So that's the car I
Okay.
drive when I get back home.
I'm a motorcycle person.
Oh yeah. So here in Hong Kong, I drive motorcycles. I drive a Surron electric,
Nice.
which is it's not really a motorbike. It's a bicycle with acceleration.
Cool.
What bike do
Uh,
you drive?
I like Hondas, so I had a F4I. Still waking up. So yeah, I love motorcycles. Basically a 600cc, because there's kind of
Yeah,
like there's the 1000cc, which have like the most power, but then the 600cc have more. You can flick them around and stuff. So I like kind of that. It's got enough power, right? But in Toronto,
yeah,
we have the worst drivers in the world. So my motorcycle got knocked over 5 times just parking.
yeah. But you see, like those heavy bikes, I'm actually afraid of them. Like the acceleration on my bike is probably similar up to about 80 kilometers an hour, and then of
Yeah.
course, like mine, tops off. But
Yeah.
like I had to drive those bikes in during the instruction course or whatever, like during the license course, and I was terrified of it,
Yeah.
just
See,
because they're so powerful and they're so heavy. Like once
that's
they go
my.
into a certain direction,
You see that?
yeah, it's a nice bike. It looks
Yeah.
nice.
Like,
Yeah.
well, that's the new one. It sucks because it's like it's 100 pounds more than my old one, so it's a little bit slower. But I think that
A hundred
FPV. Yeah.
100 pounds is the weight of my bike without battery,
Yeah.
and
See
the
that
battery
one.
is another 40 pounds.
That one's like 500, whereas the other one was 400 pounds. But
Yeah.
I think like FPV kind of saved me from my motorcycle.
Okay.
Because I love that thrill, and I think that because I've rode motorcycles since I'm 25, and when you're in the motorcycle, you have to pay attention to everything, because if you don't, like, someone's going to kill you. So,
Mm,
and the speed, it's like you get to a certain speed, and you're like, okay, if I get in an accident, I'm going to die. Like as soon
yeah.
as you hit that speed, you kind of know it. And lots of people in their cars, like on the highway, they don't realize how fast they're going. So I find that like being on the bike and feeling everything and seeing everything, the spatial awareness and everything, it translates over to FPV. So
Okay.
I,
I see what you mean, yeah.
yeah, so it's like now I can do all the sketchy stuff in the world, except I won't die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it's just diving buildings. Like I just love going to the top of a building and diving down. And
Okay, but you ride the bike for enjoyment, right?
well,
Or do you
every
like do you
stop
ride
sign, every stop sign
okay.
is a chance to test out my acceleration.
Yeah, okay. No, but for me it's like the fastest way to get to work basically.
Yeah, me
Again, like
too.
I'm utilitarian, right? The
Yeah, like
fastest way to get from point A to point B.
yeah. I love the feeling. I love the power. Like sometimes there's the whole Fast and the Furious kind of thing, how it made all the kids with the race cars. I just
Yeah.
when someone like that is next to you with their girlfriend in their like little car and they want to race you, and it's just having that thing ready and kind of just keeping up with them to play a bit
Yeah.
and then just going
Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't know, that to me is like it's joyful. There's a joyfulness in in putting like entertaining, putting on a bit of a show, right?
Yeah,
Like
but I don't know. Like I'm scared on a bike. I did a wheelie on accident like a couple of times. You know, like when you accelerate too hard and the bike lifts
yeah,
off, and then I'm
yeah,
like, okay, all right, that's enough. That's enough for this week.
yeah. So, yeah, so interesting fact, if you have someone on the back, it's easier to do a wheelie.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And that too, like when you get someone on the back and you just scare the living crap out of them, like that gets my jollies going. Like I think I live more through the excitement of others because it's hard for me to get that excitement. So
Okay.
bringing that kind of wonder into people's lives is fun, and also like okay, being with
I
other
don't think they
pilots.
could. I don't think they consider it as wonder at that moment for sure.
Oh, it depends. It depends.
Maybe after it's a cool story to tell if you survive, but I'm pretty sure like
They've all survived. The only person that like won't get on my bike is my mom. And my wife still gets on my bike, but she just complains all the time, get a car. Like it's just my wife is my anti-fan. Like it's just
okay.
she doesn't like anything I do, so I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, it was really wonderful to hang out and get to know you a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the call.
Yeah. And yeah, have a great day and thank you.
Thank
If you
you. Thank you too.
if you ever want another tester, send me stuff.
All right. I'll consider.
Okay, see you, buddy. Have a good
Cool,
one.
man. Bye.
Okay.